In 2004, at the age of 19, Michael Phelps won his first 8 Olympic medals, 6 gold and 2 bronze. In 2008, he followed this up with another 8 medals, this time all gold, setting 7 world records in the process. By his retirement, he'd become the most decorated Olympic athlete of all time, with a total of 28 medals, 2 bronze, 3 silver and 23 gold. But it's in this exact period of his life, when he was achieving what others could only imagine, that Michael Phelps was depressed and suicidal.
Well, I was so down on myself. I didn't have any self-love, and quite honestly, I just didn't want to be alive.
Michael Phelps' story is remarkable, but sadly, not unique. There are plenty of elite athletes, Olympians or not, who suffer from mental health conditions before, during, and after their careers. How does this happen, and why? Olympic athletes are absolute physical specimens, but to do what they do, they also have to fight an unbelievable mental battle. Firstly, this involves huge sacrifices from their personal life. For example, Katie Ledecky, the American swimmer, had to put off college for a year so she could swim 70,000 yards every week. American gymnast Simone Biles had an unbelievably tough childhood to get through, but on top of that, she had to give up public school at the age of 14 to be homeschooled, putting aside her friends to train for more than 30 hours a week at gymnastics. Because you've sacrificed school, friends, your free time, and even your parents' free time, if your Olympic dream doesn't work out, you can be left in a pretty dark place. Even if you're a professional sports player, the pressure is high, but you've got a full season of games to prove yourself. If you have one bad game, there are plenty left over the course of a season to make up for it. But being an Olympian is just next level. It's 4 years of work, or in this case 5 years, all to perform in one jump, one throw, one 2-minute race. And the outcome of that, regardless of how much training you've put in for all those years beforehand, determines whether you're a success or a failure. That sounds like a recipe for mental health struggles. The pressure has got to be unthinkable. By the way, special shout out to skeleton athletes. I've learned this week that because of the G-forces on their body as they go down the track, they can only train for 2 to 3 minutes each day. So for them, the real thing must be even more terrifying. You could argue that becoming an Olympic athlete, this is the lifestyle you signed up for. Of course, it's going to be high stakes, and clearly some athletes thrive off this. But it just takes one thing to go wrong in the whole Olympic training process. That can be the Olympic dream over, just like that.
Literally my last block start before I went into the call room, and I just felt my hamstring just...
Niall Wilson, the British gymnast, has a really poignant documentary about his own mental health struggles. He had to get surgery on a serious neck injury in 2019, which obviously created a huge delay in him returning to gymnastics, and eventually contributed to him retiring. His mental health struggle during this time is clear.
Walked down to Tesco, bought a bottle of champagne and 4 ciders, and I came up, got some ice, put it on my neck so it numbed the pain a little bit. For that 5 to 7 day period, I sat in my flat watching Netflix, drinking alcohol and taking codeine. Looking back over the years, you know, I have had troubles with really addictive behaviours and really obsessive behaviours. And the way it got to in the height of where I was feeling with anxiety and depression last year is the pain gets so bad that I had to find a way to remove it. You know, I couldn't sit with it. I couldn't cope with sitting with anxiety, like crippling anxiety all day, every day. So I'd drink, I'd gamble. You know, I was spending 3 to 5 nights a week in the casino on my own, playing roulette on my own, gambling with tens of thousands of pounds.
If an athlete gets physically injured, it's easy to see they can't continue training. They get put into rehab and get a meticulously crafted path to recovery. But for athletes with mental health issues, it doesn't seem as straightforward. Niall Wilson said he didn't understand why he had anxiety, but didn't immediately seek help from a psychologist. Even for elite athletes, just like in many other walks of life, asking for help with mental health still has a stigma attached to it, far more than asking a doctor for help with a physical injury. So hard work can equal success at the cost of incredible personal sacrifice and pressure along the way, and assuming you're lucky enough to avoid any moment of adversity, which would cause crushing disappointment and pretty much invalidate the last 4 years of your life. So on one hand, being an Olympic athlete creates all this pressure, which could lead to massive disappointment. But on the flip side, if you are one of the successful few, the high of achieving your Olympic dream and winning an actual medal must be equally insane. But even for these athletes, they're arguably still yet to face their biggest challenge, going back to normal life. This is the crash. Your life is the definition of order and discipline for 4 years. The Olympic Games roll around for 17 days, and then it's over. Sports psychologist Stephen Ungerleider says, after athletes come home, the lights are turned out, the media is gone, and they go into a state of shock because they've been up on the pedestal and this emotional high for so long. Chris Mears won a diving gold medal in 2016 for the UK, but just last week he gave an interview about his post-Olympic depression.
It was like all your wildest dreams coming true, and then for me, it just came crashing down. Like, I didn't know how to process, like, no one teaches you how to process, like, becoming an Olympic champion. Or, you know, for years I told myself, I'll be happy when I get this, and I'll be happy when I get that. And when I get to this, you know, position, I'll be happy. And I got it, and then I wasn't. And I think it took me maybe 3 years to really find myself again.
When asked what helped him get through this period, Mears said,
Googled therapy, literally.
That was it.
I needed it so bad.
can athletes do anything to avoid such a big crash? Kristen Keim, another sports psychologist, says you have to separate the individual from the result. If you can get a medal, amazing, but look beyond that to a bigger life objective than just being an Olympian. Another sports psychologist, Scott Goldman, says when athletes over-identify with their sport, they can lose a sense of who they are. So basically, all the personal sacrifices I talked about in the first section can be the very things that contribute to this post-Olympic depression. Having long-term plans beyond the Olympic Games that an athlete's training for can help prevent them from slipping into depression. It's important to, rather than just do nothing, to have a support network, to keep busy, to travel, to do something not related to your sport. Now, this is all great, but sometimes mental health conditions aren't just confined to the short term. Michael Phelps describes the times after the Olympics as some of his lowest moments, but he also says he's had at least half a dozen depression spells that he's gone through. An arrest in 2014 for drink driving led to him being suspended from USA Swimming for 6 months and took him to an even darker place than usual. He says that he carried just about every negative emotion you can possibly carry along for 15-20 years. Deciding to open up made it much easier to live and so much easier to enjoy life, and it's something I'm very thankful for. Phelps managed to come back and win even more gold medals at the 2016 Olympics, but this doesn't mean that his depression magically disappeared. When asked how he's been doing during the pandemic, he said,
I mean, for me personally, it's been probably the toughest stretch that I've ever gone through. There was, you know, for a few weeks, or, you know, yeah, I'd say a handful of weeks, I just tried to fight it myself, and it got me to a pretty scary situation.
So some athletes experience a post-Olympic crash, others experience even more, but it's tempting to think of a movie kind of narrative where you go into one course of therapy and that's your mental health sorted for life. It's not true, even for Olympic athletes. And finally, the reality for many Olympic athletes who aren't Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt is that the Olympics aren't their ticket to financial security. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Let's crunch some numbers. So NBC has paid $7.7 billion for broadcasting rights to the Olympic Games until 2032. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, who organise these games, are estimated to make $3 to $4 billion from TV rights to Tokyo 2020. You'd think, based on this, that the athletes must get handsomely paid, right? I mean, they must do, right? Training for the Olympics is so expensive. Guess how much a pair of these professional swimming trunks costs? Around £400 each, and they have to be replaced every few races. The reality of the Olympics is that hardly anyone gets rich. The majority are on very low pay and are basically at the mercy of their Olympic authorities. During 2020, the athlete advocacy group, Global Athlete, surveyed 500 elite athletes from 48 different countries. 58% didn't consider themselves financially stable. Before her UFC career, Ronda Rousey won a bronze medal in judo at the 2008 Olympics. A few months later, she was living out of her car. Evany Blondin, one of Canada's top long track speed skaters, gets by on a monthly stipend of $1,200, and skating is her only job. US figure skater Adam Rippon won a bronze medal at the 2018 Winter Olympics, but he admitted that in 2013 he was so poor that he had to steal apples from the gym he was training at. There are so many examples like this. GoFundMe had over 140 campaigns to raise money for athletes going to Rio 2016. And if you think these athletes should get by on sponsorships, think again. The IOC's Rule 40 states, no competitor, coach, trainer, or official who participates in the Olympic Games may allow his person, name, picture, or sports performances to be used for advertising purposes during the Olympic Games. There are a bunch of really strict rules about what athletes can post on social media during the Olympics, which basically prevents them from making extra money during the time they're getting the most exposure they've probably ever had. The IOC doesn't even award prize money for winning a medal. Some IOC members actually get paid more to watch the Olympic Games than most athletes get paid to compete in them. And a final fact to round things up, in the 2000 Olympics, around 30 athletes represented Egypt, 60 represented Turkey, and almost 100 worked at Home Depot part-time in the United States. So basically, being an Olympian isn't all that. What lessons can we take away from this into our own lives? Firstly, mental health difficulties aren't a sign of weakness. Some of the strongest people in the world go through them. Second, asking for help with mental health difficulties is a sign of strength. That's pretty much what anyone who's ever asked for help with mental health will tell you. It is worth overcoming the stigma. Third, what you see is often a facade. No matter how amazing someone's life looks from the outside, whether they're a famous Olympic champion or they're just someone you know with an amazing social media feed, maybe they have 100 subscribers, they could be going through something. It is so easy to create a facade. Finally, fourth, think outside the game you're playing. Maybe you're trying to get a promotion, get the best time in a race, get the best grade at school or university, whatever. These are all valuable goals, and perhaps you're surrounded by people hell-bent on making you meet them. But these same people might not be as concerned with your day-to-day well-being. Make it a personal priority to take care of yourself and to think about life beyond your bubble of work. So that sermon wraps up today's video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to drop a like if you enjoyed it. And if you're new here, I am a Cambridge psychology graduate. I upload videos here every week or so about psychology and self-improvement. If you want to see more, spam that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I'll see you next week with another one.